Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, May 19th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. San Diego could soon be back in business, and not just for dining out and shopping. City and county leaders want to push ahead into reopening and make us the test case for the rest of the state. Today, county health officials reported 11 more people have died from COVID-19. There are also 80 new cases, pushing the total past 6,000. As KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman tells us, not everyone is on board with the rush to reopen.
San Diego County is ready to move to accelerated stage 2.
Health officials told county supervisors Tuesday that under revised state guidelines, they believe it's okay for restaurants to reopen for dine-in service with restrictions, and the same for in-person shopping for some retail stores.
This is a good plan. It's an aggressive plan.
Health officials made the recommendation based on factors like lower rates of positive cases, increased testing capacity, and the ability of hospitals to increase bed space. But some of the county's largest healthcare systems aren't unified on the plan to reopen further. Sharp Healthcare says triggers for adjusting the plan specifically as it relates to hospital capacity are not appropriate. Scripps healthcare officials are urging caution, warning that we only have a partial success story here. They're concerned about rising cases in the South County and Imperial County and the uncertainty of the supply chain. But UC San Diego Health and Palomar Health officials said after reviewing the plan, they support the county moving forward with reopening more businesses. The state is now reviewing the county's plan to ease restrictions. If approved, some businesses could reopen as early as tomorrow.
We remain committed to abiding by the state's order, but we also believe San Diego County is uniquely qualified to conduct a pilot program of some sectors reserved for stage 3.
The board also approved sending a pilot program to the state that would allow for the reopening of things like gyms, salons, research labs, youth sport clubs, pools, and outdoor religious services.
Given that we have not yet even implemented stage 2, I don't believe it's the time to call on the state to immediately allow us to go into stage 3.
Supervisor Nathan Fletcher was the only one opposed to the pilot program. County staff said last night they briefed state officials about the program.
And although they did not embrace it fully, they indicated a willingness to at least review our proposal.
Supervisors are also distributing hundreds of millions of dollars in federal CARES Act money. $275 million is going to the county's COVID-19 response, which includes testing and tracing efforts. $25 million has been set aside to help cities that have been seeing revenues drying up. $17 million is for stimulus programs for struggling restaurants and businesses, and $15 million is for additional behavioral health services. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Moments ago, San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer unveiled a revised budget for the next fiscal year. Libraries will still be closed on Sundays and Mondays, but the mayor now proposes keeping rec centers' hours at their current levels of 60 hours per week. Last month, the mayor had proposed cutting them to 45 hours.
A month later, we have now updated our revenue projections and have received federal and state funding to help in the fight of COVID-19. This budget update that we are releasing today makes additional reductions with a focused restoration, actually, of some certain services. Child care, housing, and employment are critical needs right now, and they are front and center in the budget.
The mayor is also backing off on dipping into city's general fund reserves, opting instead to make deeper cuts to city departments. City council members are due to discuss the revised spending plan on Thursday. Tune into Evening Edition tomorrow to hear more details on the revised budget. San Diego City Council members today extended a moratorium on evictions for struggling renters and businesses. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more.
With much of the economy still shut down and unemployment in some neighborhoods well over 30%, many tenants are behind on rent, and an eviction could push them into homelessness. The city's eviction moratorium was set to expire at the end of the month, but is now extended through June 30th. Also, City Council President Georgette Gomez says financial aid for renters and landlords is still a possibility.
The state is having conversations, as well as hopefully at the federal level as well, in terms of hopefully providing some sort of rental relief. And I know that there's been discussions here at the council of possibly doing something.
The moratorium requires tenants and businesses to notify their landlords in writing if they're unable to pay, and they must prove their hardship is caused by COVID-19. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
2 new state-run COVID-19 testing sites opened in our county today. One is at the former county assessor's office in El Cajon. The other is at the Tubman Chavez Center in southeast San Diego. A big benefit of this site is access to public transit. It's a walk-up testing facility, but you do need an appointment. Tony Young is a co-founder of Rise San Diego, a group that has been calling for more testing in the areas hardest hit by the pandemic, including southeast San Diego. Testing is steadily increasing with the goal of reaching 5,200 daily as we move toward reopening more businesses.
Many of the folks that you're talking about here that live here are the ones that are going to be working in those facilities, right? When we talk about opening up restaurants and hotels and some of the places that are important to us, they live here.
And here's a look at the available testing sites in southeast San Diego: El Cajon, Escondido, and Chula Vista. You don't need a doctor's referral, but again, you do have to make an appointment. You can do that by calling 211 or by visiting the website that you see on your screen right now, lhi.care/COVID testing. Historic job losses, an economy racing toward recession, and an unprecedented emergency federal response. The economic aspects of the coronavirus crisis is under scrutiny on Capitol Hill. Karen Kafa is in Washington with the highlights from today's fiery hearing.
A dire warning about the state of the coronavirus economy.
There is the risk of permanent damage.
For the first time, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell faced questions from lawmakers on the rocky rollout of the CARES Act, the historic $2.2 trillion emergency relief package.
These programs are making a major positive impact on people's lives.
That's really at times heated hearing highlighted the delicate balance between the health of Americans and the health of the economy.
It is so important to begin bringing people back to work in a safe way.
How many workers should give their lives to increase the GDP or the Dow Jones by 1,000 points?
You know, workers should give their lives to do that, Mr. Senator, and I think your characterization is unfair.
The meeting comes after the Congressional Oversight Commission found the Treasury Department has so far spent little of the $500 billion appropriated for lending money to businesses and to state and local governments. Powell and Mnuchin pledged to launch the Main Street Lending Program, aimed at extending billions of dollars to small and mid-sized businesses by the end of the month. Still, the Fed chairman wonders if more needs to be done.
This is the biggest response by Congress ever and the fastest and the biggest from us. And still, this is the biggest shock we've seen in living memory. And the question looms in the air of, is it enough?
In Washington, Karen Kafa, KPBS News.
San Diego Unified and 5 other California school districts sent a letter to Governor Gavin Newsom warning that schools may not open this fall without more funding. Newsom's revised state budget cut hundreds of millions of dollars in funding for K-12 districts. San Diego Unified officials tell us that the district is still planning to start school on August 31st, but it will be a continuation of distance learning unless the state provides the needed funding to reopen campuses. The County Board of Supervisors voted today to revive the county's Human Relations Commission. This comes after a pair of incidents at Santee grocery stores, one with a man wearing a KKK hood and the other involving a man wearing a swastika on a face mask. The commission had existed in the county for decades, but was dissolved back in 2018. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says the pandemic has further exposed racial tensions.
We have seen issues around COVID-19, the virus called the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus has provided racists with a thinly veiled excuse to threaten and target the API community, Asian hurtful and derogatory graffiti recently defamed a Little League field in the Allied Gardens neighborhood of San Diego.
The 25-person commission will include representatives from law enforcement and members of several minority and religious groups. The commission will host public events and make recommendations to the County Board of Supervisors on how to fight back against intolerance. Our partner iNewsSource is reporting that Imperial County's 2 hospitals have stopped accepting COVID-19 patients. Adolph Edward, head of the El Centro Medical Center, announced the decision today. He says an overnight surge of cases coming from Mexicali led to the change.
We want to make sure that we don't overwhelm in either one of the hospitals and overwhelm the system with COVID patients to the point that we can't take care of you.
The hospital emergency rooms in El Centro and Brawley remain open to treat other illnesses, but ambulances will be diverting COVID patients. A local hospital association official says that means some patients will wind up at San Diego hospitals. For more on this story, go to inewssource.org. As the world continues to stay separated to lessen the infection rate of the virus, the isolation can have severe effects on mental health. Today, I spoke with the mayor of El Cajon, Dr. William Wells. He spent decades in the mental health industry before becoming mayor. He says we need to consider a different type of body count in relation to the virus. Mayor Wells, thank you so much for joining me today. Since the new phased opening of some businesses, how have things been in El Cajon? Has there been a sense of more relief or more trepidation?
Oh, I think it's a mixture of both. I think there's a lot of confusion as to what's really happening. I don't think anybody really understands completely whether or not they're allowed to be open or they're allowed not to be open. And I don't necessarily blame anybody for that. I think it's when you try to enact a group of rules on 40 million people and you try to kind of create a one-size-fits-all approach, it's pretty hard to get that message out to everybody because everybody's different.
And you and other mayors have been asking for more local control in your areas. How would you like to see the reopening of business in contrast with the way the governor is laying it out?
It bothers me that this has become a partisan issue. At least it seems like it has been. And I don't, my background's in health. I've spent 30 years working as a health professional. I'm leery of opening too soon and being uncareful. At the same time, I see a lot of things that seem kind of silly to me in the way that people have overreached and gone way too extreme. If it were me, if somebody, if you had the power to make me governor today, I think I would be cautious, but I would start thinking about the concept of allowing younger people to get off the restrictions more quickly than the older people. Because let's face it, the statistics tell us that younger people pretty much survive.
And you mentioned that you have a background in mental health. You have a doctorate in psychology. What else should people be considering during this time besides the obvious concern of becoming infected with COVID-19?
Well, you brought up psychology. One of the things that I'm certainly hearing a lot about is the mental health of people. I think people are not meant to be isolated. It's just not part of the way we're structured. And for over 2 months now, people have been very isolated, and I see people fraying around the edges. I hear people telling me that they're crying all the time, that they're anxious. A friend of mine who's a primary care doc says his prescriptions for anti-anxiety, antidepressant medications have gone up almost 80%. I've heard about suicide hotlines being up over 8,000%. And that concerns me because I feel like there's more than one kind of body count.
The virus has hit nursing homes all over the place very hard, and particularly in El Cajon, one of the highest numbers of positive cases among residents and staff workers as well, in one in particular. Why do you think the number is so disproportionately high?
Well, I think it's because we disproportionately have a lot of nursing homes in El Cajon. Nursing homes seem to congregate in certain areas of the city. There's a lot of nursing homes in National City, and there's a lot of nursing homes in El Cajon. I think that's primarily because buildings are less expensive there, and people want to put nursing homes in less expensive buildings.
What do you think is most important to residents of El Cajon right now?
I don't want to criticize the governor because I think he's doing what he has to do to try to keep people safe. But the one thing I would say if I were his advisor is he needs to communicate more with people. People don't have a lot of hope. There's some people are very, very frightened. They're frightened that this is a new way of life, that they're never going to be able to go outside of their homes. They're never going to be able to see their friends. I'd like to see the governor come out and say, we're doing everything we can to get life back to normal as fast as we possibly can. And I think he could do that by loosening up on restrictions that don't make any sense.
We're following all of the latest coronavirus developments for you at kpbs.org. Click on the Tracking COVID-19 link at the top of the homepage, and you'll be taken to a page with all of our recent reports. Another cool and cloudy day throughout the county, but it looks like warmer weather is on the way. Mark Mancuso has your forecast.
Well, it looks like the weather will be much better the next couple of days. A nice little warm-up coming here Wednesday into Thursday. But then for the end of the week, Friday into Saturday, we'll see the onshore flow returning, so it'll turn cooler again and the winds will start to kick back in. So we started off the week with this trough moving in, and with that we've seen the cool air. There's been some spotty showers with it. The trough will continue to work its way eastward into tomorrow. So as the trough pulls away, our weather will be improving. Taking a look at temperatures tonight, we're down to 54 in Oceanside, San Diego 61, Ramona 48, and Mount Laguna is down to 39. Of course, we'll have some clouds in the area. And then for Wednesday, the trough shifts east. We'll be in the drier air, and it should be a pretty nice day. Forecast high 89 with sunshine. Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna 60, Ramona 74, and El Cajon at 79, and at Oceanside we're at 72. And Thursday looks like a beautiful day here. And then as we take you to the extended forecast, well, you can see we'll have some more clouds around, cooling off a little bit as we take you into the weekend. Temperatures drop to the low 70s here. At the coast, inland sections will be near 80 Thursday and Friday, then cooler on Saturday. And into the mountains we go. Temperatures rising to the mid-60s, but then drop to low 60s on Saturday. And in the desert region, temperatures warming up to the mid-90s here, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then over the weekend, boy, temperatures on the rise on Sunday. It'll look seasonable, highs in the upper 90s. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
There may be a silver lining to cities shutting down around the world. A study out today shows global carbon emissions dropped to the lowest levels in 15 years. Daily emissions went down 17% between January and early April compared to average levels last year. And those numbers could keep going down. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson takes a look at the impact of fewer cars on the roads here in San Diego.
Southern California freeways just haven't been the same recently. The ribbons of concrete are still there, but the traffic isn't.
It's a very dramatic decline.
Gustavo Delarda is the acting director for Caltrans District 11. That's the region which includes San Diego.
During the year, we have some seasonal drops in traffic when kids are off of school and things like that during the summer typically. But we haven't seen anything to this magnitude.
Delarda says a critical freeway like Interstate 5 typically has hundreds of thousands of cars and trucks. During rush hour, traffic frequently slowed to a crawl, but not anymore.
What you saw right after the stay-home order was issued, about half of the traffic on any given day was traveling on I-5. And right now, it's about a third drop.
Delarda says he's curious to see how freeway traffic changes as the state begins to ease social distancing restrictions and allows the economy to reignite. He's unsure whether COVID will have a lasting impact on traffic.
We need to see how society really is going to change as part of going back to what they call the new normal. There's a lot of people that are teleworking right now. We expect that there will be a lot of people teleworking after this as well. And that may reduce some of the some of the demands on the transportation system.
Teleworking has been a huge eye-opener for climate advocates.
The biggest driver of the climate crisis in San Diego region is cars.
Nicole Capritz is the Climate Action Campaign Executive Director. She says San Diego's Climate Action Plan requires the city to cut its carbon footprint in half by 2035. Shrinking the city's carbon output was always going to rely on getting people out of their cars.
And yet they've always been a struggle to implement. And then suddenly overnight, because of the COVID crisis, we kind of see, wow, if we did actually find a solution to cars being on the road, we have clean air.
Capert says teleworking was never part of the carbon reduction equation. The strategy focused on biking, walking, and mass transit. She says working from home was not widely accepted culturally. But when the shutdown hit, the unexpected happened. Now, Capert says teleworking could become a key strategy.
So we have to figure out a way to just transform our whole energy system, to transform almost everything about the way we live, work, and play. And so, again, we're sort of getting a peek at what that might look like. And hopefully people will see that it could be a better quality of life.
San Diego's Chief Sustainability Officer, Cody Hooven, says carbon emissions have already been trimmed by 21% since 2010, but she concedes success hinges on changing how people move around.
We like to drive long distances on the freeways, and that's the way our city is designed. So shifting that behavior and building up public transportation and bike accessibility and walking, pedestrian access that's safe and comfortable for people, it's a pretty big lift.
Hooven says the quick shift to telework was unexpected, but it gives city leaders something to think about as they give the Climate Action Plan its scheduled 5-year update.
What does a work from home scenario look like in the future, and what other things are changing? You know, now people are thinking about walking and biking more as a safe way to commute because they don't have to be crowded with other people in a carpool or a van or a bus.
How many cars end up on San Diego's freeways after the COVID-19 situation is resolved will go a long way toward determining how successful San Diego's Climate Action Plan is. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
It looks like Pier 1 won't survive the pandemic. The 58-year-old company specializing in home furnishings is asking the bankruptcy court to cease all its retail operations as soon as possible. Pier 1 says it tried to find ways to remain in business, but liquidation was the best option. It currently has more than 500 stores and plans to sell its remaining inventory, website, and intellectual property. Orders placed on its website will still be fulfilled. If you're still waiting on your stimulus payment, keep an eye out for a debit card in the mail. The U.S. Treasury Department says about 4 million payments will be sent on a debit card, which can be activated immediately. It can be used to make purchases, get cash at an ATM, or to transfer funds into a bank account without being charged a fee. Until now, payments had been either directly deposited into a bank or mailed as a paper check. Imperial County is also trying to balance public health with financial health. Tonight, we hear from the mayor of El Centro about the challenge for his small community.
My name is Efrain Silva, and I'm the mayor of El Centro, California. This is totally surreal. Never in my life would have expected us to be facing what we're facing, and I'm working here out of my office, but I'm the only person here.
Welcome, everyone, to our weekly meeting of the El Centro City Council.
As we weigh the options and we weigh the necessity to open the economy, I think about those people that are not as fortunate as I am and that are suffering and that are going hungry. 42% of our revenue comes from sales tax, and obviously with the closing of retail, which is our primary source, we've seen a significant impact. We anticipate for this coming year the impact to be around $3 million, which for us in El Centro, a small community, is a significant impact. I have to say that it's a hit that's going to hurt. I'm very proud to say that the city of El Centro has a pretty healthy reserve, so we'll be able to cushion that impact in a way that it's less impacting on our own citizens, but it does hurt. And we also realize that the recovery is going to be slow.
You can hear more of the mayor's comments and track the latest COVID-19 numbers for Imperial County at kpbs.org.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the governor of California on how to open up the state safely. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a quick update on today's top stories. The San Diego County Board of Supervisors is asking Governor Gavin Newsom to make San Diego a test case for Phase 3 reopening. Supervisors want to allow for dining in at restaurants and shopping at stores as soon as tomorrow. They also want to accelerate the reopening of youth sports, hair salons, gyms, and outdoor religious services. And San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer unveiled his revised city budget. The $1.6 billion proposal restores rec center hours and prioritizes federal CARES Act stimulus funds for homeless services, small businesses, and childcare for frontline workers. Former First Lady Michelle Obama welcomes a special guest on her weekly Storytime series.
We are excited to share today's book, The Bear Ate Your Sandwich, by Julia Sarcone Roach.
And former President Barack Obama joined his wife to read a children's book for kids stuck at home. You can find this week's Mondays with Michelle Obama episode and others on the PBS Kids YouTube page. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.